Hey, you're just in time for the weekly recap. This is a weekly series I do where I go over the previous week's worth of videos, giving you a bit of a summary of what all we accomplished. I'll give you some of my personal answers to some of the questions of the day that I asked. And finally, I'll try to pave the way of what I think we're going to be doing in the next week. All of that out of the way, on with the show. As I mentioned on Friday, I had a bit of a mishap with the save file for Coliseum this week. So, all that we really have to review are the 2 episodes of me taking out grunts. Following which, there was the anticlimactic ending of the series when I messed up the save file. So, unfortunately, there's not really a whole lot to report this week, so I'll go ahead and cover what we are going to be missing in summary. We do finish going up the tower, and then you beat the boss, find out that Nazgul guy with the crazy hair is actually not the real boss. I'll leave the secret boss's identity not totally secret. I'm going to be referencing him a little bit later, but in his cipher ego, I won't reveal what other character he's been pretending to be. Although his model is a little obvious, so sorry if that ends up being a bit of a spoiler, but when we do progress on to XD, as I mentioned on Friday, I think really the only person that continues from this game into that game is Mirror B. So we already saw pretty much all we were going to see of him. I figure it's probably fine. In Golden Sun this week, we made our way from the port of Calais across the inland sea to the new port town of Tolby, where we're excited to be seeing whatever this Colosso is going to be, apparently some form of gladiator fight. Unfortunately, while that sounds like a pretty short tale, it ended up taking all 3 of the episodes because while we found the boat in the first episode, it was not ready to leave without an entire crew of passengers that had paid for tickets ahead of time. So we had to first go find them and get them to leave from leave from the inn at Calais down to the port. Then we had to overcome the fact that some of the the crew were trying to sabotage the journey. And then even once we finally got underway, there was monster attacks the entire way across. But now we have finally arrived, and we will get to experience all the interesting wonders that Tolby has for us. The first question that I'll answer from this week was what you thought a good candidate for Ultimate Shadow Pokemon would be. As it turns out in the game, it does end up being a Tyranitar, which I think is appropriate on some levels, but, I mean, first off, the fact that it's already part dark, so that whole shadow idea meshes with it reasonably well, but my personal choice for what I think in Coliseum would have been a really interesting option for this Ultimate Shadow Pokemon would have been Slacking. And part of my reasoning for this is that, as I should be showing about now, that final boss who has the Shadow Tyranitar also has a Slacking on his team, so it wouldn't really be that far out of bounds already based on that. But then also, as I should be switching to the base stats about now, Slacking outpaces Tyranitar in pretty much everything except its defenses are a little bit lower, but it has significantly higher bulk. And the main reason that all of that ends up still cutting back against it is that despite all of its great stats, obviously it has the problematic Truant ability, which causes it to basically not be useful every other turn, and also therefore not be able to use any 2-turn moves. However, the main vein that I was trying to go in with how I would choose this Ultimate Shadow Pokemon was trying to bring out all the greatest strengths of Shadow Pokemon in Coliseum, mind you. Because in XD, they change a lot of how it functions, and make it a lot better, I might add. But, as for in Coliseum, all Shadow Rush is physical, no matter who's using it, no matter what move it's replacing. Shadow Rush is always physical, which means that ideally, the Ultimate Shadow Pokemon would probably need to be a physical user, and the Pokemon, as of Gen 3, with the highest stats outside of being legendary, is Slacking. 1 second. Sorry, dropped. But on top of that, because in, again, Coliseum, it's a recoil move, having a very high HP stat and still decent defense stats, I feel on slacking would be a lot more beneficial to it, compared to the fact that for Tyranitar, while it does have really decent defenses, its health is actually noticeably lower than Slacking's, so that recoil, which ignores your own defenses, would kind of cut back against it somewhat, although the incredible power that both of them would be using would be yielding quite a bit of recoil no matter what you're doing. So either way, I just thought it was an interesting little alternative to what they go with. The next question was, have you ever seen the ocean? And this was in reference to the fact that Garrett and crew had, or at least Garrett and Isaac talked about not having seen the ocean before, which made sense, seeing as how the village that they lived in, they had never really left, and it's landlocked. So one of the benefits of having parents that were international missionaries, I have seen the ocean. And that goes right into my next question of, have you ever been seasick? And technically, I don't think so. Maybe once when I was really young. Because of particularly where we were while my parents were missionaries on an island, there were a number of ferry rides that we took back and forth from the mainland whenever certain meetings would need to take place. So there was quite a lot of boat riding that went on, and while I don't remember the earliest of those trips, which is why I don't know, it's possible I got seasick on some of the earliest ones, for the vast majority of them, I remember not really even needing to take any medicine for it, and still not really getting seasick. So, myself, probably not, but possibly I could be forgetting. I'm going to do the looking to the future segment of this video in reverse this time, seeing as how normally I go with my A slot first and then B slot second, but because this week in particular we happen to be transitioning the A slot from Coliseum to a new game, I'll go ahead and give you the focus on Golden Sun first, seeing as how that's the series that's actually continuing it next week. And on that front, as I mentioned at the end of the summary, as well as the last video, I believe we should be spending our next several episodes in Tolby. I want to say that I remember there being plenty of content there before, during, and then just after Colosso. Obviously, during that really big episode that got cut in half during the week, we saw some stuff over back near Calais that was still requiring us to trek back there from this side of the sea. I think that we might make that trip and go get that gin and a couple other things, but I don't remember if that happens right after we finish this stuff in Tolby or if there's still a little bit more. So one way or the other, we're going to be mostly spending a lot more of our time down here on this side, and eventually we will be making our way down to the south and to Gondolin, which we saw the Gondolin pass back up to Angora, I think, is the northern continent, where we've been up until this point. As for what the channel is going to be switching over to, I was planning on taking this as a chance to sort of give you a bit of a behind the scenes on what exactly my thinking is as to why I try to choose what series I choose. As I mentioned earlier, I run sort of an A and a B series at the same time, to where the A takes the, now that I've organized it this way, the Monday, Wednesday, Friday slots, and then the B series takes the Tuesday, Thursday, Saturday slots. And initially my idea that ended up, as you can see if you look back through our videos, I've not really held to it very well, but the idea has been to have one of the two series, either A or B, be more of a custom format to where, for instance, like Kingdoms and Castles, wherein the game itself doesn't really provide you a lot of direct checkpoints, so where you call an episode is really more up to you, and whether or not you feel you've accomplished what you set out to accomplish. And then the other series I was planning on always trying to have going concurrently would be some game that has far more strict, like, missions or something, and a really excellent example of this was Drill Dozer that actually had straight-up chapters, or Shantae, which also came in mostly chapters. It didn't have the menu work quite the same way. It was somewhat of an overworld, but still had designated segments that I would play through. And so because right now you could kind of argue that Golden Sun fits whichever one you really want, I'm going to be considering it to basically fit that secondary slot where it does have you doing stuff in a place and then you move on usually. So I'm sort of considering that to qualify it as that secondary category, which leads me to announce that my plan for the series to replace Coliseum will be far more in that first vein of sort of choosing when I end, and it'll be a Minecraft Let's Play. Specifically, instead of just sort of getting in and ambling about, I have a specific goal in mind that isn't quite beating the Ender Dragon. My plan is to sort of work through the game in segments and like keep setting new goals that are pretty achievable in a shorter amount of time, so that I can get up to that point, do it, call the series, put it on hiatus, and then bring it back later with a new goal that extends it further, eventually getting us to things like beating the Ender Dragon, summoning and defeating the Wither, whatever other bosses may be around by the time we actually get to any of that stuff. So the goal that I'm going to be setting out in the first set place will be trying to find and then build up a village to sort of be our fortress home, because with villages, as of the village update, there's a lot of ability to manipulate the village in terms of growing it and sort of terraforming it, as long as you abide by a couple specific rules, and as I've done, and as long as you've looked up like what all the thing is looking for to constitute a house for villagers to spawn at, so forth and so on. So I'm looking forward to that. I hope that you guys will really enjoy that, and that'll about cover it for the futures episode, or the looking forward aspect of this video. Well, that about wraps up what we have for this week. Once again, thanks for watching, and I will catch you next time. Yo, thanks for watching. If you enjoyed the video, like and leave a comment. Subscribe and hit the bell icon if you want YouTube to let you know when more uploads arrive. I've put links in the description for if you want to follow the channel's Twitter or Facebook, as well as a link to the channel's Patreon if you'd like to support the channel. Once again, thanks for watching, and I'll catch you next time.